Welcome everybody to uSTADIUM Fantasy Live Week 15. I can't believe it's week
Wow.
15 already. Waiver wire special. With me, as always, is Stefan. Bersh Bombs. How is it going, big guy? How was your fantasy weekend? Did you get into the playoffs at all? Are you going to be watching the playoffs? Or are you in the playoffs?
So, playoffs. I got in on 3 out of the 4 leagues I was in. The uSTADIUM League, I unfortunately did not make it after talking all that smack week 1.
I didn't make it either. Yeah, I lost a lot of guys. I lost Murray, Henry, Harris went down for a while. Judy went down for a while. James Robinson's moot at this point. Clyde Edwards-Helaire went down for a bit, so my team got hit by the injury bug.
I
sucked.
I know it sucked, but you know what? If I'm making it in 3 out of 4 leagues, I'm okay with it. I got in on this one Yahoo league where I'm 7-7, but you know when you have the points for, and the rule is the guy with the most points gets in with the same record. So this guy, I'm like, oh, all hope was lost. I'm like, no. My girlfriend's like, you good? I'm like, no, we lost this league. 6 minutes later, I'm like, okay, it's even worse. After that Bucks game, he wins by 0.21, and I get in out of points to the guy that was supposed to win, and somehow I got in out of nowhere. So I was blessed. I had lost Henry in that league. I lost Darren Waller. So it was a God grace. Like, no, your time's not done yet. So I'm excited. I can't wait for the fantasy playoffs. I can't wait to just see my team go for another back-to-back championship, one league, a first title in another league, and then another first title in another league. So I'm excited.
I agree with Frankie. We cannot let him win the uSTADIUM League. Somehow, some way, I might have to try to drop some guys.
Please.
So other guys can pick them
up. This guy started. Who did he start? Was it Zach Wilson? Frankie was joking around, and he goes, you know what? I played you guys. I knew this. This is what I do. This guy made the playoffs. I'm like, what is going on?
Yeah,
Frankie,
one of the better
kudos
teams
to
in
you.
the league. Yeah, kudos. I made it in. I'm in 14 playoffs. So out of competing teams, I hit the 80% mark.
Okay,
so
there you go.
I'm sitting good. I'm sitting pretty. The one league I enjoyed making it the most. I was 1-6. A little update on that one. I'm in the playoffs. 6th position. I finished 6-2 down the stretch. So
exactly what you needed too, right?
I'm a happy guy. I started Rashad Penny. I started Jalen Guyton. They both had great days on Sunday. So I was pretty smitten.
That's impressive.
Yeah, yes, sir. I was a little nervous because the other guy had Lamar Jackson. Yeah, James Robinson, AJ Dillon, Dave Montgomery, Deontay Johnson, and another big wide receiver. And unfortunately, Lamar Jackson got hurt with a lower ankle sprain. I was talking to Splash before the show. He's a big Ravens guy, but he's expecting Lamar to play on Sunday. So Tyler Huntley was okay. He was okay.
Did you see that play of Tyler Huntley though? That one that 4-person juke out where he's like whoop whoop. I'm like, yeah. If Tyler Huntley developed
Lamar Light, yeah, there you go.
Yeah, exactly. It's you've got Bud and then you've got Bud Light. This guy they've got something in Huntley. I think if they can develop him, if maybe one day they could trade him, some team could utilize that speed. You just gotta get his pass game a little more accurate though.
Tyrod Taylor 2.0 right there. I like it. It was a good week. We're going to get into the positional top finishers of the week, the top performers. QB1 was Josh Allen with 36.2 points. His first half, he was a little shaky. He didn't look that good playing against Tampa Bay, but the second half he came on. He rushed for 107 yards, a rushing TD. He threw 2 TDs, so he really came on in the second half. Wide receiver 1, do you know who it is?
Jamar Chase.
At it. No, good guess. He did have a good game, 2 tutties. Devontae Adams, 29.1 points. This is 0.5 PPR formats. And tight end 1, second week in the row, George Kittle, 27.6 points. The guy has been electric since coming off IR. He is the top tight end in fantasy right now to own is George Kittle. The top kicker, you want to take a guess at top kicker?
Top kicker had to be Matt Prater.
Oh, good guess. Yes, Matt Prater.
Yes. Oh, okay.
16
Yes.
fantasy points, depending on your scoring. Matt Prater was the K1. And the RB1 was...
Yeah. I had it. I lost it. I literally had it, and I just lost it. Give me Aaron Jones.
No, he played on Thursday. A lot of people were saying not to maybe start Dalvin Cook, start Madison. I know you weren't falling for that trap. You had some tweets out there that you weren't gonna fall into that Cook trap, but Cook was absolutely electric. 34.7 fantasy points. He was running through the Pittsburgh Steelers.
It's like every time he touched the ball, a huge gaping hole was just there. Bang, 10 yard, 10 yard, 10 yard.
Yeah, it was unreal, man.
Steelers, man, you just got to get that defense right because you got embarrassed by one man. He had 140 plus rushing yards in the first half.
Yeah, I think he ended up with 205, right?
I had to go against him in a league where I had to clinch a playoff spot. But if I had not clinched that playoff spot, I would have been really salty, losing to Dalvin Cook the way I lost and to those guys on his team. But that guy is a beast. When he's healthy, he's 100% healthy. There is no doubt about it. So it's crazy.
Yeah, he was on pace after the first half to pass Adrian Peterson's record day, but unfortunately he didn't get it done. Fortunately, though, for fantasy owners of Dalvin Cook, who started him, he absolutely produced on Thursday. News from around the NFL. The NFL has COVID-19. It's not looking good, especially for the first week of the fantasy playoffs. The Rams are in intensive protocols. The Browns got it bad as well. They've been hit big over the past 2 days. There's been over 50 players who tested positive for COVID-19. The Rams, man, the Rams not looking good. OBJ
tested positive. It wasn't like he was close contact. It was the full test. Like I don't know what's going on. It's like, was it 37 players today? And I'm looking through my lineups. I'm like, please. Okay, I read all the names off. I'm like, okay, check. Knocking on this wood I've got as a desk. I had nobody on that COVID list yet. I dodged a bullet. If you dodged that bullet for this week and you did not have anyone on that list, the Jarvis Landry's, Baker Mayfield, like you dodged a big one, because to have this happen week 15 in the playoffs it's something you can't avoid, and you just have to somehow maneuver around it. So
it's devastating. And if there is a fantasy god, I'm praying that they the Cooper Kupp doesn't get affected by COVID-19.
Yeah, just leave the good ones alone, please.
Please don't get Cooper Kupp, because I need him. I need him week 15.
I think you and half the world need him.
Jeez. Some of the names on the COVID report: OBJ, Odell Beckham Jr., Austin Hooper, Jarvis Landry, Donovan Peoples-Jones, David Njoku, Cedric Wilson, Mike Boone, Camu Grugier-Hill. For all the IDP players out there, that guy's been a stud. He had 19 tackles in week 13, I think it was. Josh Gordon, Rashawn Slater, the tackle for the Chargers. That's a big one. He's been great on that line. Alexander Madison, Kadarius Toney, and I know he's not playing this the rest of the season, but Christian McCaffrey also on the COVID IR list.
Just add insult to injury to his whole season. Like
I find it funny that they can move him off the IR to the COVID IR. Like there's some roster management, it looks like, going on a little bit there. Some more notes from around the NFL. Darren Waller was a DNP, did not practice today. James Conner and DeAndre Hopkins both had MRIs done on leg injuries. James Conner was a stud on Sunday. He kicked me out of the playoffs in one league. The guy, I was up by, I think, 22 points, and he ended up getting 25. So Josh Allen was not spotted in a boot while eating at a restaurant. So that's a sign of good
That's
things
some good news
to
right
come. And Daniel Jones has yet to be cleared. So expect another Glennon start on Sunday. Now, there is 2 games on Saturday as well as the Thursday night football game. So keep up with the news there. We'll be pushing notifications to to remind you guys that there are games on Saturday. So just be aware you don't want to get caught with your pants down week 15 of the playoffs by not starting or taking guys out or not adjusting your lineups. You want to make sure those guys that are playing Thursday and Saturday are in the positional spots and not the flexes. So you have more ability to adjust on the fly if anything was to happen, and you're not handcuffed to starting a wide receiver if a wide receiver goes down. Whereas a flex, you have more options, right?
I mean, you listen, whoever's watching this, please heed what he's saying. This man is right. If you are that guy who doesn't normally do it, it's like a smaller like pro tip. He's right. If there's someone that's playing the latest game Monday night, Sunday night, just leave him in the flex. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Because COVID's going around like it's nonsense. Next thing you know, like you said, if you have someone that's a receiver, running back, and you're screwed, you're like, wow, I could have had this, but I wasn't smart enough to adjust your lineup. Pay attention. Just like me, look at your lineup 10 times a day. You might not change anything, but at least you memorize your matchups, you memorize the times, you memorize the practices. This is it where you have to just buckle down these 3 weeks and just make sure you don't mess this up, because you're playing for the money, the trophy, the respect, that you're just trying to win your league. You want
this is why we play. This is
no
the
one
grind.
goes to the playoffs like, I just made it. I'm happy to be here. Nah, you're here to win this. Just like me, I'm checking it 10 times a day just to make sure that I have my guys ready to go for Saturday and Thursday.
Yes, sir. We got a question here from Marcos Valdez. What's up, fellas? What's up, Marcos? We are good. Need your help. Half-point PPR, T. Higgins or Cordell Patterson. I think I know your answer here. Also, Herbert or Rodgers? You taking Cordell over Higgins?
I'm gonna hold off on that one for 1 second. The real quick one for Rodgers. I'm kind of scared because of that foot injury. It kind of worse on Sunday. I'm going to go with Herbert. This guy is a gunslinger. I mean, he's got 30 touchdowns in the 2 seasons. This guy is a star. This guy's an benchable quarterback. So I'm always going to start Herbert. And Cordero Patterson, I love him. I can't bench him. I am a little afraid, though, because they did pull him out in the 4th quarter against the Panthers. They said it wasn't injury related, but he did have 16 carries. He had 2 catches. So I guess maybe just a workload management, but T. Higgins has been balling lately.
Oh, yes, he has.
But I mean, if it's a flex, I'm going to have to go with my boy, Cordero Patterson. This guy has been nothing but a gem for everyone that's been picking him up. You spend your waiver money on him. I got to start him every single week, and every week I have. And ever since then, he's been doing nothing but bringing me home the bacon.
I like it. I'm a little hesitant. I got a little hezzy with the Herbert start. It's a quick turnaround Thursday. They're playing the Chiefs. Over the past 4 weeks, the Chiefs have been great against the quarterback. They've only allowed 8.38 points to the position. So that's a good number over the past 4 weeks to limit the quarterbacks to. That defense has been stout.
What a turnaround.
Yeah, if Slater's out, if Eckler's out, Mike Williams was limited in practice. Keenan Allen has been activated off the COVID IR, so I'm expecting him to have another big day, be that blanket, that safety blanket for Herbert. But man, it's hard to sit Rodgers. I love Rodgers, especially for fantasy purposes. The guy can get it done. He's gone on the Pat McAfee show to say that the toe is not an issue. It's not going to cause him to miss any time. We saw him handle the Bears on Sunday. So, man, it's tough for me. I think I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go Rodgers there versus Baltimore, and then I'm good with starting Cordero Patterson. Even though we know T. Higgins has been an absolute stud over the past few weeks, I'm good with starting Cordero Patterson there. Pro tip: set an alarm and take 10 minutes for your fantasy squads.
That's all it takes.
I agree, man. So here we go. Week 15. It's a heavy waiver week. I got a lot of honorable mentions. It was hard to pick just 5 guys, but the guy at the top of our list is running back from the Seattle Seahawks, Rashad Penny. He absolutely dominated the backfield. Yes, we know it was versus the Texans. Yes, Travis Homer was out. Adrian Peterson was out. Alex Collins was still limited. But week 13 and now this past week, it has shown that Penny has the potential to be the lead back for the Seattle Seahawks right now. Alex Collins, 7 carries. DJ Dallas had 2 carries. They both look weighted down compared to what Penny was doing when carrying the rock. The guy exploded in week 14 when if you started him, it was an absolute he was absolutely clutch, going off for 2 touchdowns, 138 yards, good for a top 3 RB finish on the week. He played just 57% of the snaps and ran a route on 47% of Wilson's dropbacks. That alone right there, even though he only saw 1 target, that alone right there is a great number into the involvement of him being involved in the passing game. So I like what I've seen there. I like that he is running routes. I mean, he's not seeing the dump offs that we would like to see him with that big route percentage there, but he's being involved. He's being involved in the passing downs. My only worry is that when Adrian Peterson comes back and Travis Homer comes back, that it cuts into a bit of his time. But maybe with the play of Rashad Penny, they cut Adrian Peterson, like kind of like the Titans did when they seen what they had with Hilliard and what they had with Foreman. They noticed that they didn't really need him as a roster clogger on the offense. So pick up Rashad Penny. We have here a 30% fab budget is what you're going to want to spend on the guy. He has the potential to be that league winner if they use him like they use him the past 2 weeks. It's definitely there for him.
I mean, I'm just going to say it. I was a guy who was not high on Rashad Penny, and I know you were, and I told you, Ibubuke, I'm like, oh, this guy's going to be good.
I wasn't going to bring that up. You could have left that out.
Listen, I know. Hey, like we say at the end of every show, when I say something and I have to own up to it, I got to I was not high on this guy, but man, on 16 carries, he did that.
Yep.
He literally made me eat my words that day on that show. I sat there and I'm like, oh God. But like you said, I mean, I don't know. Is AP going to be back? Is this Rashad Penny? Like we've seen this before where he has one great game and then next thing you know, he's out somewhere else. So I can trust him. I mean, if I need him, if I have a bye week, if you have him on a bye week team, see how he does this week. See his utilization, see his snap percentage, see his carries. Because if Adrian Peterson comes back, if all these guys come back healthy, it's back to a 4-person committee at this running back position. And it was only 16 carries. So, and it's the Houston Texans. So I really don't know what to make of it. I like it. I mean, if I had the money to spend on him, spend it. You've got 3 weeks left. If you hold on to anything over $50 and you're not spending money on guys that can help you win matchups, you're wasting it. This guy is a guy that I'm going to spend the money on because I saw what he could do unlimited carries. If he had a full workload, can stay healthy, this guy is going to be what they need for that offense to be actually good. Because the reason they're not good is they don't have a running game. So you can't sit there and be like the Buffalo Bills or like in Madden where you're playing a guy who throws 50 times a game and doesn't rush the ball. You need a running game. A running game helps your pass offense. Your pass offense complements the play action, and you just need that. And if Rashad Penny can be that guy, Seattle's not going to be in the playoffs, but they're going to have a nice record to finish up this what is an ugly, abysmal offensive season.
Yeah, and the talent's there. We saw what he could do in college. It hasn't come up to the NFL yet, but he's been hampered by injuries. It's good to see him be able to produce. He's quick. He's got a nice burst. We know he can catch the ball. Let's just hope he can stay healthy and continue to produce for the rest of the way for us here. We got a question here from Fraggy. Start 2, Eckler, Fournette, Montgomery, James Conner. I can start 3, but I have Gronk and Mark Andrews. So what should I do? I'm in playoffs for the second round. I think Fournette right now is a must start. You have to plug that guy into your lineups. Pay attention to the Eckler injury. He did re-aggravate that ankle. So there's a possibility that he might get limited snaps on the quick turnaround for the Thursday night. Then you got Dave Montgomery, James Conner also injured. Also had MRI today, so we're waiting for the results for that. Chase Edmonds is due back Cliff Kingsbury has been quoted to saying that they have leaned on James Conner maybe a little too much with the Edmonds injury. So now that Edmonds is due back most likely this week, he might see a less of a workload. So you can start 3, but it looks like he wants to start Gronk or Mark Andrews. I think Mark Andrews also is a must start, tight end wise at least. So if you're picking 2 here, Fournette, yeah.
Fournette, yeah, I think we can come to a consensus that Fournette's one of them.
Yeah.
Eckler is, I don't know what to, I don't know. He might be. I don't want to be in that same situation as last week. Dalvin Cook was hurt. He could play. I think honestly speaking, Montgomery and Fournette are the healthiest of the two. Talent wise, we know what Eckler can do. James Conner, I think, will come down to that workload because I did admit it, like you said, that he's getting overworked. But stick with me for 1 second when I say you can start Gronk and Mark Andrews in a flex position if you think that is a safer option. I mean, Gronk has been nothing but a great tight end since he's come back from the injury. Mark Andrews is, Mark Andrews. You drafted him that high for a reason. But you can flex Gronk. You can flex Mark Andrews. One of those guys, it's not bad. But I just don't trust the outside 2 guys. I trust more Fournette and Montgomery because of the injury thing.
Yep, I like Montgomery. I like the matchup versus the Vikings, who are the 22nd ranked defense against the running back. So I'm expecting Montgomery to have another big day. Next guy on our list here, KJ Osborne. He's only owned in 38% of Yahoo leagues. We talked about him last week and how much he was a must-add. Now going into this week with the production that he put up over the weekend, you're going to have to spend a little bit more dough on the guy to get him. Again, another guy we were high on going into last week. He didn't disappoint. He posted 3 catches, 9 targets, 83 yards, and a touchdown. What I love most about the stat line is the 9 targets. The target share was massive. Anytime this dude has posted over an 80% target share, he has put up a nice stat line for fantasy managers. And over the last 2 games, he has played over an 80% snap share, and he's posted 130 yards, 2 touchdowns, and 16 targets. So the usage is great.
I mean, this guy is. We told you. I mean, you were high on him, and I was too. I mean, it's like. I know he had that one. It was that one big run that he had that touchdown, that deep bomb. But don't forget, you don't just get 9 targets out of that. Like 9 targets. Exactly. If he catches 2 more of those those passes, that's a 100-yard game. That's what you never know what that could turn into. So his potential is there. I mean, he's getting targeted. If it was like lower targets where it's like 3 catches on like 4 targets, a different story. But 9 targets in that offense where Dalvin Cook handled basically every touch. That's good. I mean, Justin Jefferson's eating, Dalvin Cook's eating, and we even said that with Adam Thielen being out, those shares are there. Those targets need to go somewhere. So Osborne stepped up. I mean, even when Thielen was there, Osborne was still getting good chunks of yards. He was getting good touchdown plays. He was making he's making moves to go up that depth chart and become the wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3, and he's a good wide receiver 3. So, I mean, going forward, he's a guy you can flex. Maybe if Thielen comes back in 2 weeks, but I wouldn't feel, too bad having this guy in my lineup next week because this guy's a baller in my eyes.
Yep. And he's got Chicago, who's not the greatest against the wide receiver either. The 26th ranked defense against the wide receiver for fantasy purposes. So, great matchup there. Fraggy, trade Hawkinson and Thielen versus Kittle and Claypool. Give me Kittle and Claypool all day there. Thielen is maybe a little bit higher than Claypool just based on his touchdown production, but Kittle outweighs both of those guys. I think I would probably trade Hawkinson and Thielen for Kittle alone. The fact that you're getting Claypool there is a plus in any format, whether it's dynasty, redraft, keeper. If you're getting Kittle and Claypool, you're winning, man.
Kittle has been just it's watching this guy's numbers has been it's like Madden. You know that when you always target that one receiver like 4 games in a row, he's putting up video game numbers, and it doesn't look like they're going to stop because that's what's working for them.
I agree.
Kittle is your receiver 2 or receiver 1 of the year.
Yep, I agree there. Mark Yasko, start 2. KJ Osborne, who we just talked about. Darnell Mooney versus the Minnesota Vikings. Michael Pittman, or Brandon Ayuk? Brandon Ayuk has been our second half star. You especially have been hyping him up over these past few weeks, and he hasn't really disappointed. He had that 1 week there, week I think 13, where he was a little not producing like we thought he would with Debo out. We saw George Kittle just go bananas in that game, but he got the game-winning touchdown. He's still seeing a good amount of targets there.
11 targets last game.
Yeah. Yep. So if I'm picking two, man, for me it's Ayuk, and I love the matchup with Osborne this week. So it's Osborne and Ayuk. I mean, you could start Osborne, Mooney, or Pittman, and with Ayuk there, I don't think you can go wrong with either of the three.
I mean, I don't even know where Pittman's been the last few games either, though. So like Pittman's been good, but Osborne, Ayuk have been better. Mooney. He had, like I said, Mooney had a window, and if you didn't take him in that window during Thanksgiving and after Thanksgiving a little bit, that was like the Mooney window. Now it's more like, hey, Ayuk is starting to get back up there. I mean, his last 3 games, he's had over 30 targets total. I mean, Osborne, we just said this guy's a baller, 9 targets, 83 yards, a touchdown. I mean, he's got the deep threat ability. I just don't trust the inner two guys again. It's that offense runs through in Indy, runs through Jonathan Taylor. Jonathan Taylor can handle 25 to 30 touches a game. Pittman has just been too much on a slow, like, I guess, decline. I mean, he was good, and then he just started to spiral down. He's just not consistent enough for me to trust him right now. And Pittman's a good name. He's a big time receiver.
Yep.
But, like, these guys that are like, hey, this guy, Julio, this guy, Pittman, A.J. Brown, these names that were so familiar, they're household names, they're no longer getting it done. Osborne, Amon St. Brown, Rashad Bateman, Rashad Penny, like these are the guys that are going to win it for you, and they're the ugliest names. But hey, fantasy is about wins, and it's not about who has the sexiest team name. It's about who has straight ballers, and these guys are straight ballers.
Yeah, I agree with that 100%. And Pittman's got New England this week, so I don't love the matchup at all. At all. I'm expecting the Patriots defense to be all over them. They're gonna let someone else try to. Who's that? Who's that wide receiver in there? Doolin. I think it's Doolin. He's had some good days, but I could see Ashton Doolin. I could see him maybe having a decent day, but Pittman, I think the Patriots are just going to take,
because that's what Belichick does to you.
Exactly.
Like we said, what did we say when they played against the Buffalo Bills? I was like, you're going to sit there and not start Dawson Knox. Why? Because Belichick takes away your number one guy. That's why. Pittman, I don't expect him to have a good game. Honestly, even Jonathan Taylor, I think that he's going to be contained to a regular game, but not a Jonathan Taylor type of game. Because Belichick knows what he's doing. And when you give Belichick that defense to like play chess, everyone else in the league is playing checkers. This guy plays chess, and every time you come into you come into his house and expect to run the ball for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns, pass the ball for 100 yards and 2 touchdowns. Not in Bill's house. He hasn't done it for 22 years, and he won't do it for the next 22 years.
Yeah, I agree with that. I don't like the matchup there. Good luck there. Ryan Potts, any worries with Marquise Brown for the rest of season? He's getting a steady dose of targets, but it's much more short/intermediate stuff right now. With Tyler Huntley last game, he did miss him on some big time throws that could have went for touchdowns there. So I'm plugging Marquise in where I got him. I got no real worries about him. The volume's there, so give me the volume over a guy that maybe only sees 2 to 4 targets per game. Give me the guy that's going to see a steady dose of between 7 to 9 targets. So I'm not too worried. He has taken a step back over the past couple weeks compared to what he was doing at the beginning of the season, but I'm not worried with Marquise. How about you? Are you worried with Marquise at all?
I think the bright lights were a little too much for him, the Hollywood lights. I think that going forward, if it's Huntley, I think so. I mean, I think he's like his safety valve outside of Mark Andrews. Like, he can be that deep ball guy. If Huntley knows how to connect on 2 of those passes, Hollywood has a crazy game. I mean, I'm trying to be positive about it. I think Mark Andrews is the biggest benefactor from the Lamar Jackson injury. It seems like whenever there's someone to go to, it's Mark Andrews. And our boy, I mean, he's right below KJ Osborne. Rashad Bateman had what we say his breakout game. He had 18 points in PPR, 100-yard game, and that's what not Lamar Jackson. So like when I see Tyler Huntley, I'm like, is this a better passing offense without Lamar? I'm not saying it is, but it looked like, in his relief, he had, I think, 300 yards, was it almost?
It's close to it.
Close to 300 yards and a touchdown. I mean, shoot.
He outplayed Baker.
He don't play. Yeah,
he outplayed Baker Mayfield. Let's not get it twisted, man. Baker Mayfield only threw for, I think, 170 something.
I think Hollywood could be a guy that might not get you what he got you in the beginning of the season, but he can be a steady dose of a 15-point scorer with Huntley in the game.
Yeah, I agree with that. So, we trust him. We trust him. We brought him up already, talked about him. Rashad Bateman is our next ad here. A few weeks ago, we were saying drop the guy. He's pretty much fantasy useless. If you have a short bench, 10-team league, he's not worth holding on. Now we're saying pick him up just because of what we saw over this past weekend. If Tyler Huntley is the starter, I like it even more. Sammy Watkins may also miss the game. So there's that fact to factor in as well. I know he's your guy in week 14 and 15, but he's dealing with some stuff as well. So Rashad Bateman should be picked up, if anything, for a stash, just to see what he can do moving forward. Again, if Lamar's out, he does have that low ankle sprain. He's projected to start on the weekend. We're still monitoring the situation. We don't quite know what's going to happen. Ankle sprain is never a good thing, especially with the quarterback that runs the ball as much as he does.
Kyler Murray.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. Opposing defenses are going to be trying to target that injury. The fact that they know about that injury, as brutal as that is to say, that is the NFL. But so I kind of like Rashad Bateman with Lamar as well. If he does play and they do decide to change the game plan up a little bit and he doesn't rush the ball as much. I mean, he's not the most accurate quarterback, but I definitely don't hate him dumping down to Rashad Bateman in any of these games coming up. So
KJ Osborne or Rashad Bateman then?
I'm going KJ Osborne there.
Okay.
Yeah, I just like the amount of targets that he's getting. I trust the arm of the quarterback a bit more there. So give me KJ Osborne.
KJ what Osborne, you? Hollywood Brown.
Give me Marquise.
Okay.
Yeah,
I think I go the same. KJ over Rashad, and I think Marquise over KJ. It's just, I think Marquise is just still that centerpiece. Like he's like the 1B to Mark Andrews 1A. Yeah, I think Rashad Bateman can slowly creep up, but I don't know. This Ravens team has done some like confusing things, like going forward on 2, like all that kind of stuff. So I don't know what Harbaugh wants to do, but if he gets it right and he can sit Lamar for like a game or two, I think that Bateman, Hollywood, and Andrews can all eat because I think they might be down in a few of these games because these injuries are starting to catch up little by little.
Yeah, I mean, the Ravens secondary is just been ravaged by injuries. The offense now, you see Lamar go down, Watkins down, so it's not looking good. They need the wins, man. They need all the wins they can get. So I don't know if sitting Lamar is the best thing to do, but who knows? We will see. We'll keep you guys updated throughout the week. Next guy on our list is another guy that we were pushing last week for you guys to grab. It's Amon St. Brown. Stefan, you lived in Detroit. Why should we be picking up Amon?
I mean, 24 targets in the last 2 games.
Mm-hmm.
24 targets, 159 receiving yards, and he's caught 18 of those 24. So this guy can catch. This guy is what I wanted him to be a few weeks ago. This guy is the only option outside of Reynolds that's on that offense that can catch the ball. In the last 2 weeks, he's done nothing but prove that he should be the number 1 receiver on that team. And they're always going to be down. I mean, they were slaughtered last week in Denver, but Amon St. Brown still 8. He still had 12 targets, 8 catches, 12 targets, and 73 yards in a game that you were down 31-10. That just screams that they're forcing the ball. They're starting to be more of a passing team. Ever since DeAndre Swift got banged up on Thanksgiving, Jamal Williams got out, they kind of had to like reestablish their pass offense because they can't go through the running backs that they have on that team. I'm sorry. I mean, Igubuka, we loved you. I mean, Jamar Jefferson, whatever. And then I forgot the other guy. Who was the other guy that they had? The
Craig Reynolds.
Craig Reynolds, the undrafted rookie. These are guys you can't win games with. No offense to the NFL players. I'm not in the NFL, so I can't say much. But you got to go through Amon-Ra St. Brown, Hopkinson, and Josh Reynolds. But I think Amon-Ra St. Brown has developed that chemistry with Jared Goff. I mean, there hasn't been a receiving threat on that offense outside of Hopkinson since Calvin Johnson, really. I mean, that was the real guy. And Amon-Ra St. Brown is nowhere near Calvin Johnson. But if you're getting me 24 targets in 2 games, you're getting me 18 catches in 2 games and 159 yards.
And a TD.
And a TD, that's going to win you fantasy games.
Yeah. 100%,
it's not pretty, but nothing we've said was ever pretty this year. You can go back to all of our takes. Everything we've said is unorthodox, is unparalleled. You're like, wait a minute. This guy in 2021 is going to be the RB4. This guy is the receiver 5. Amon-Ra St. Brown could be that end of the year 3-week stretch receiver 3 that could win you games when you don't even know about it. Take the risk. I mean, if you need a flex guy, if you're not starting the healthiest team, if you get hit with the COVID, injuries, take a dart on this guy. This guy has been nothing but a streaming consistent receiver too.
Yeah, exactly. And we even said temper your expectations versus Denver, and he still went off for 8 catches and 73 yards.
Yep.
So the guy has been turning out over the past few weeks. His numbers have been great. Adam, his rest of season schedule for the playoffs. He's got Arizona, Atlanta, and Seattle. So all plus matchups there.
I mean, come on. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. Especially Atlanta and Seattle. Arizona could be a bit tricky, but I mean, the Lions, like you said, always playing from behind, always have the opportunity for garbage time. They're always going to be passing the ball. The reason why DeAndre Swift was so great this season, because they were passing him the ball, because that's what the Lions got to do to stay in games. They can't slow the game down because they're always playing keep up. And a guy like Amon-Ra St. Brown could be the perfect wide receiver 3/flex for your fantasy teams. Last guy on our list, we like to find those 0% guys. Like we said, it's a heavy fantasy waiver wire week. There's tons of guys on your waivers that you can add. We'll get to the honorable mentions just after this guy, but it's Josh Kelly. Yahoo, he's owned 0%. Spend about 10% of your fab on him just in case Eckler does play. In relief for Austin Eckler last week, who re-aggravated his ankle. He ran 10 times, 33 yards. He came in the third quarter. He should fill in the role for the goal line back if Eckler does miss any time. I mean, an ankle injury, especially a re-aggravated ankle injury. I mean, I think he had 2 rolls of tape on his ankle when I saw them taping it up there. It's never a good look. Justin Jackson should also be considered as an ad. He'll handle most of the passing work, so I don't think Josh Kelly gets any of that stuff, but he should see the goal line work. They got the Chiefs this week, which is not that great of a matchup. It's a short week though, so he could see some decent playing time there. And for us, it's mainly just a volume thing. Getting a running back, especially with everything that's going on with COVID, getting a running back that can potentially handle 12 to 15 carries on the week, 60-something yards, and the possibility of carrying the goal line work for the Chargers, who are a high-powered offense, is someone that you might want to add just maybe as a stash. If Eckler doesn't play, you can plug him in, and he might see a go week. But we've seen it week in and week out with these situations where the top running back gets hurt, and we're saying, okay, this is going to be the guy. And then someone out of the blue completely jumps in and becomes the running back of the week for those teams. We saw it this past weekend with Craig Reynolds. We saw it with Dontrell Hilliard. So it might even be Larry Roundtree week for the Chargers there. So pick up Josh Jackson if he's there. Larry Roundtree's a speculative ad. If he was scratched this past weekend, coach's decision. So they all have the potential to produce, but I think Josh Kelly has the highest floor of the 3.
I think so too. I mean, when I see a guy like Eckler get out, I'm more towards a backfield like this. I think it's a committee.
Yeah.
And then it's like, hey, let's play darts again. Who are we gonna go with? To me, it's between Josh Kelly and Roundtree. I think because Roundtree was a healthy scratch, it's more like a better he wasn't injured. And I think this week they'll probably lean on all three of them with Kelly, Jackson, and Roundtree. So if you need someone, if you're an Austin Eckler owner, yeah, go sprinkle a few dollars out there. I don't think this week is going to be the week that you want to start Eckler. I don't even think you want to start any of these running backs, to be honest with you, because that Chiefs defense, ever since Melvin Ingram came there, took over that DN spot, Chris Jones moved into the tackle. They are undefeated, and not even that they're undefeated. They've held their last two opponents to a total of 19 points.
Yeah.
Unreal, this is the Chiefs defense that we laughed about, that it's the weakness that you can expose them. Not anymore. And when it comes to running the ball, that's one thing that they're going to do. Yeah, they got gashed by Javonte Williams the week before that, but by the time that happened, it was garbage time. I think on a Thursday night game, it's more of a defensive game because it's a short week. And I think Josh Kelly, Justin Jackson, and Roundtree are all utilized. And even if Eckler is going to be active, are you starting Eckler? Like, do you feel comfortable putting him out there if he's good to go?
It's hard. It's hard not to start a guy like Eckler, but the ankle injury does worry me. If I have other running backs,
like who would you think? Okay, if you had Eckler, like who was a second guy that you could be okay with benching Eckler for?
That's a great question. That's a great question.
There's not that many out there, but
no, man.
If you played the waivers this year, if you have like like me, I have a few running backs on my bench, like Javonte Williams is sitting on my bench, or I can put like Cordell Patterson, but like I don't really know who else I'm starting over Eckler, but like that injury is scaring me especially. I'm terrified of injuries like that. I gotta take a stab on someone else if he can't go, and if he can go, what's his role? Are you gonna start him and be baited into that? Hey, he has 3 carries and he exited the game out with the injury again, and then he was sitting in week 15 of the playoffs with 0 to like 5 points from your guy that you're expecting 25 to 20 points from.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's hard to sit a guy like Eckler knowing his pedigree and what he can do, but the ankle injury is just so scary. The fact that they pulled him last week in the third quarter, short week as well against the Chiefs defense, man, it's not a good look. I mean, I think I'm starting Monty. If I have Monty, I'm starting Monty over him. I'm starting Connor over him, of course, there if Connor plays. But man, it's a tricky spot.
Freeman?
You know what?
I know he was bad last week. Like he wasn't too consistent, but like
but the offense as a whole struggled there for a little bit, right? But yeah, I think I would have no issue playing Devonta Freeman over Austin Eckler if Austin Eckler doesn't practice tomorrow. Tomorrow's going to be the big one for us.
Yeah.
Practice-wise, if he doesn't practice.
Wednesdays and Fridays are always like,
yeah.
That is the one, like every time I do like a football pool sheet, everyone's like, why do you wait till Friday? Because when injury reports come out and the guy that those big name guys are out, that really can affect, how that whole game goes. So keep an eye on those injury reports, see if he's limited, if he's going to play. And if he is going to play, look out for those keywords like limited fashion, or like we have certain game type script for him, because they don't care about our fantasy teams. They don't care that we're in the playoffs. They just have to win their real regular.
Well, Eckler does. I think Eckler does.
Cares.
Yes, Eckler cares.
So I think we might be gifted with an Eckler like tweet or like a post tomorrow that says, "Hey guys, I'm gonna be good to plug me in," because he's the only guy that seems to care about anyone's fantasy team. So like,
and Dallas Goedert. There was that one video, Dallas Goedert. He's for the cause.
Oh my God, Dallas Goedert was such a blessing for me this year too.
Got some honorable mentions for you guys. I got a long list here. Gabriel Davis, wide receiver for the Buffalo Bills, should be considered. Taysom Hill should also be considered. He's owned in over 50% of Yahoo leagues. Wide receiver for the Dolphins, Devontae Parker. Russell Gage should also be considered. Ronald Jones as strictly a handcuff or a just in case. So you could probably get Ronald Jones for the cheap. If anything was to happen to Leonard Fournette, you have an instant starting running back on one of the better offenses in the league. Amir Abdullah saw decent usage over the past weekend, but he should also be considered as an ad. We mentioned him earlier. Joshua Jackson, Larry Roundtree, Jimmy Garoppolo has a great rest of season schedule for the playoffs. So consider him as well as Tua Tagovailoa. I had Donovan Peoples-Jones on this list, but COVID kind of taken him off the list.
Did he actually, is it official for him?
I'm not sure if it's official. I have to double check that one. Jamison Crowder should also be considered with Elijah Moore and Corey Davis out on the IR. Royce Freeman with Rex Burkhead being hurt as well over the past weekend. He went down with what I believe was a rib injury, so Royce Freeman should be considered. Rondale Moore and AJ Green, DeAndre Hopkins. He had injured his leg on last night's game, so consider those options. You got any honorable mentions there, Steph?
So outside you taking a few of mine. No, I'm kidding. I did have Royce Freeman. I saw that he had a nice, decent game. Laquan Treadwell has had a steady dosage of targets. He had 8, 5, and 6 the last 3 weeks. On top of your Arizona Cardinals receivers, Christian Kirk too seems to be like one of the favorite guys when Hopkins or someone is out. Also, Justin Fields for a quarterback. He had a good game. He did kind of get hurt a little bit with the rib injury again. If Carson Wentz is on your waiver wire, pick up a second quarterback, pick up a guy that you want to stash just in case. David Njoku, I heard might be coming back. I'm not sure on his status. I saw that. I mean, Austin Hooper last week when he replaced his role, he had a good week for fantasy tight ends. I mean, they really have no one else. So if David Njoku is good to go, it's a good start for him as well. Cole Kmet has seen an uptick in targets as well. He's like a good little streamer for fantasy tight ends. And then the defenses that you have to get if you're out there, you have to get the 49ers defense. We said that the week before that they have a cake matchup going forward. Even Washington has had a decent floor the last few weeks against the Cowboys last week. It's not like they got annihilated to the point where they got negative points, but they still put up a decent stat line with 4 sacks. They had 2 interceptions. They did have that TD pick 6 in garbage time, so they kind of fluctuated those points. But if you need a defense, kickers too. Jake Elliott, McPherson's out there. Matt Prater's out there. I know we haven't talked about them. Ryan Suckup out there. These are guys that if you don't have a Justin Tucker or a Harrison Butker or a Jason Saunders, maybe go out and get these guys. Matt Prater was one of the MVPs of the week. He had 16 fantasy points on a team that didn't finish a lot. So, I mean, these are guys that you want to pick up. I mean, Elliott, McPherson are one of my 2 favorite kickers of the year. I mean, they've been nothing but straight ballers.
I love McPherson, man.
You mentioned it last Sunday. Yeah. I mean, also another guy that I think people are kind of low on and they should be a little bit higher on. Where is he? Is Keelan Cole. I think because they lost 2 of their main guys, Crowder, Keelan Cole are going to really be the only 2 guys outside of Michael Carter coming back and Ty Johnson and them boys. But him and Alan Lazard, those are 2 guys I looked and I'm like, okay, these are guys that could be a good stashes for favorable matchups. Alan Lazard had one of those really good games too over MVS, which I kind of did not see coming. I thought MVS would be the guy who would have the Devontae Adams kind of game, but ended up being Lazard and Adams show. So it really depends on how Aaron Rodgers feels going forward, because if that toe is not good, those receivers might not see a lot of targets. But if he can power through and get to the playoffs, Alan Lazard and Devontae Adams could be 2 good guys that could see a lot of targets and touchdowns.
Yeah, definitely, man. I agree with that list right there. Speaking of streamers, my top QB streamer of the week is Big Ben Roethlisberger. Really? He's playing Tennessee. Pittsburgh Steelers are top 5 in the league in passing attempts, so they throw the ball a hell of a lot. His offense is pretty healthy. Claypool, Deontay, Freiermuth, and Najee Harris there. And the Titans have allowed the 3rd most fantasy points to the position. I'm expecting a good day for Big Ben, who over the past 2 weeks has finished in the top 10 of fantasy scoring QBs. So I'm expecting another top 10 finish there for Big Ben. So if he's on your waivers, maybe go pick him up. Also, the Miami Dolphins defense versus the Jets this week. They've been pretty stout when they need to be. I love the matchup. You mentioned Jake Elliott. He was my streamer kicker of the week. Since week 8, he's averaged 12.2 points per game. He's coming off a bye. I'm looking for him to get it done. And then also Ricky Seals-Jones with Logan Thomas out. Ricky Seals in relief prior to when Logan
That was your
Thomas came
boy.
back. Yeah, he put up some good numbers. So I'm expecting Ricky Seals-Jones to be involved in that offense. Again, now we get into some of the players that we are comfortable dropping. There's a name that I think it's a little maybe out there to say to drop just because he's a running back. They're hard to come by. But I mean, hot topic, hot take. Is James Robinson droppable?
Oh, I did not expect to hear that name. I thought you were going to say someone else than James. Oh, God, this guy won me a league last year. I mean, this guy was
a
the
lot of
best
people,
$1.
definitely.
Like, I got this guy $1 end of the season draft or end of the draft. I was like, who is this kid? He's not what he was last year, and I blame Urban Meyer 100% for this guy's fault. He's not bad. He's not a sucky player, and he keeps coming out with this BS like we're gonna give him the ball. We're gonna give him the ball. He ran the ball They had more. Actually, they tied interceptions with how many times he rushed the ball last week. He had 4 interceptions against Trevor Lawrence, 4 rushes for James Robinson. I don't know what Urban Meyer is doing, but I'm one of the guys that we just have to get this guy out of there. He's making that team worse than it is, and James Robinson is the biggest he's the biggest loser out of the people because he's losing everything. He had so much potential, had so much hype, even with Travis Etienne there. He was supposed to be a stud, but he's turning into one of the biggest duds, not because of his talent, because his coach does not know what he's doing with the guy. I don't know if I drop him, but he's getting damn near close to dropping because Urban Meyer doesn't know how to utilize him.
Yep. I mean, he's got a good matchup this week versus Houston. We just saw what Rashad Penny did against Houston. But over the past 2 weeks, he's only had 14 carries, 28 yards. This past week, he wasn't targeted once in the passing game. We know he has the chops to catch the ball and do things on the ground. But, man, it hasn't looked good. All the reports coming out of Jacksonville are not good as well. The fact that the quarterback can't keep the offense on the field is another big question, another big X towards James Robinson. So they're always playing for behind. The game script is never in his favor. All the controversy that's coming out with them, the fact that they don't want to use him, they benched him. I mean, I don't know if I could drop him, but it's borderline right now.
If he doesn't do good next week, if you say if he has another subpar game next week, are you dropping him or are you just holding him until the playoffs are over, just so in case?
I think you hold him just because I wouldn't want one of my opponents to get him and then he goes off because he's still seeing a last week 64% snap share. Yeah, so he's still on the field a lot. He's on the field, but they're just not using him.
I mean, so look at the script though. Like if you look at every other team, who has been struggling the last few weeks because they have no run game? Buffalo, Jacksonville. Like these are 2 teams that have they should have good rush games, but you're not going to rush the ball and like win the game if you're rushing it 4 times. I mean, they go both hand in hand, Buffalo and Jacksonville. You guys can't sit there and throw 50 times and then expect to win a game and not rush it with your decent running back style players. Like what are you doing? James Robinson is just spiraling down. Your team's getting worse. No wonder the offense is so ugly because you have no run game.
Yeah.
When you have no run game, of course you're gonna have 4 interceptions. Like you guys are just handing free dubs to anyone that walks into your stadium.
Yeah, it's not a good look. I'm actually expecting Buffalo to pick. I got them mocked to pick a running back very early in the draft next year. There are some very nice ones coming out. So I'm expecting Buffalo's running game to get a bit of a bump because this year it's just been non-existent.
If they knew how to run the ball, this team would be unstoppable.
Yeah. I mean, other than Josh Allen, the running game has been non-existent. Matt Breida has been not that good. Devin Singletary's had his moments. Zach Moss was a healthy scratch at one point. So, I mean, there's guys like Isaiah Spiller, Breece Hall, Kenneth Walker, all coming out into the draft. So I'm expecting the Bills to pick one early. Another drop candidate, Kenny Golladay, is droppable. He was droppable 2-3 weeks ago, I believe. T.Y. Hilton, if he's still on your roster, he's droppable. Laviska Shenault's droppable. Right?
Julio Jones. Oh yeah, Laviska Shenault was droppable 3 weeks ago.
Evan Ingram, I think it's safe to say droppable now. He was my sleeper start going into the week, but he just didn't show up.
He still fell asleep.
Yeah, he's still sleeping. And then Teddy Bridgewater to me is droppable.
Are you dropping Julio?
No, I'm not dropping Julio. I'm gonna let him get his legs under him, get him moving again. I don't know if I got him locked in as a start. I got him maybe more as a stash right now. But I mean, who else is there for the Tennessee Titans that's catching the ball?
5,000 running backs they have running the ball. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, I don't know if I'm dropping Julio. You got any drops? Any guys you're cutting bait?
I said it last week. I gave him another chance. Jeff Wilson. I don't know what he's doing. He's a running back. I don't want to drop a running back, but like, what are you doing for me? You're not doing anything. You're just sitting on my bench
as well. Yeah,
like you had the whole like mantra. Outside of that, I mean, I don't really know. Outside of Ayuk, he saved his season. Is Derek Carr still startable? Like, are you starting Derek Carr?
No, he's droppable. J.D. McKissick's supposed to come back, but I think he might be droppable in like shallower leagues, 10-team leagues.
Noah Font. Like,
is
this guy?
I mean, Albert O is
Big O is starting to take over the guy. I mean,
he's the tight end one there.
Jared Cook, like these are guys that like people
Jared
pick up.
Cook,
Like,
David Johnson's droppable, I would say.
I mean, what else? Higbee. I think Higbee also is droppable. He's a guy that you can stream, but I'm not rostering him. Tyler Boyd, I think, saved his tail a little bit, and I think Robbie Anderson, because they were guys on waiver wires. If you see Robbie on there as well, he had his best stat line of the season last week.
Yes, sir.
So I mean, he could be on the verge of coming back. Some guys have saved their season going forward, but I think I don't know. Barkley, what's your take on Barkley?
I mean, great week. Finally, he caught that one. He caught that one TD there. He was wide open. I was nice to see.
Is he startable though?
Yeah, I think I could still trust him, man. The talent's there. I can't not trust Barkley. So I'm plugging him in where I got him. I'm just so afraid a guy like that. I'm gonna put him on my bench, and then he's gonna absolutely go on a tear. So I'll live and die with Barkley on my roster, man.
How about Scary Terry?
Scary Terry was your bold sit, and unfortunately he got hurt. But even before that, he wasn't getting much. 0 points. Did he throw up the goose?
Big donut hole. Yep.
Yeah. So definitely not cuttable.
I think benchable, though, right?
Benchable. Like, yeah.
Okay, it's just sad. I mean, these are guys that have the name, but like we keep saying, these names don't produce points. And if they're not producing points, sit them down on the bench, let them take a week off. Start KJ Osborne, start Rashad Bateman, start someone else that's actually producing. Because if you're sitting there, if you're not starting, KJ Osborne because you like the name of Terry McLaurin, and you look at that offense, Heineke's been good, but it hasn't produced the good numbers for Scary Terry.
Yeah. So. Now here's a name for you. DK Metcalf. What do you do with DK Metcalf?
I think I have to just eat it. Every week I have to eat it with DK Metcalf because he's the epitome of the guy you just said. You bench him and then he's going to go off. DK is in a great high-powered offense. He is, to me, the number one offensive threat on that team. I just don't know. I mean, maybe we were trying Penny coming back. I mean, Wilson missed him on a few touchdowns last week. He could have had a lot of a better game, but he just didn't do well. I don't know if it's going to happen the next 3 weeks. I mean, they could easily come back any second now and like go back to being what they were. These guys are not like a dynamic duo that Heineke and say Scary Terry are. Like I would take Russell Wilson and I would take DK Metcalf to start every single week in my lineup without touching it over those two guys. I just don't think DK Metcalf is droppable or benchable. Even though he had the ugly numbers, it's DK Metcalf.
Yeah. I mean, it hasn't been good. There was that OnlyFans story. I saw.
Oh my god!
I saw Jeff Bell posted a a pre and post of the story. Pre-foursome story, 4.7 receptions, 76.7 yards, and a touchdown he was averaging. Post OnlyFans story, 3.8 receptions, 34.5 yards, and 0.4 touchdowns. So I don't know if Russell Wilson just doesn't want to throw him the ball, or maybe he's just in his head a bit, DK Metcalf. But man, he's just one of those guys. Like he's like you say, he's like Saquon for me, man. You want to start your studs at the end of the day because you don't want to
cost your games.
You don't want to get caught holding the bag. So, but in some situations, man, like you got to risk it. You got to risk it for the biscuit, right?
Are you starting him next week against whoever they're playing next week? Like, are you confident as the receiver one, or is he like, hey, let me see how like the week goes out? I might bench him, or I might.
He's got the Rams, who he doesn't have a good history against
exactly.
Either.
So
but
like,
the Rams are in shambles, right? The Rams right now, COVID's running through the Rams. So I mean, it's tough, man. It's tough not to start the guy, but. If you're going by the numbers, if you're going by history, his numbers haven't been great versus the Rams, and his numbers haven't been great as of lately. Haven't been great at all. So you start him because who else are you really going to put in above him?
I mean,
there's not many guys, right?
I mean, they're like maybe two guys I would start over him.
You starting Lockett or Metcalf?
Lockett seems to be He seems to be back on track with Russell Wilson, and Lockett's been, Lockett's Lockett. Lockett's been the guy who's an 12 catches, 120 yards, and a touchdown. I mean, would you start Hopkins? Say a healthy Hopkins this year or DK Metcalf?
I'm going Hopkins, man. I just like what he can do.
Jamar Chase or Hopkins?
Oh,
Mike Williams or Mike Williams. Okay, so DK Metcalf or Mike Williams, DK Metcalf or CeeDee Lamb.
Am I getting Mike Williams?
Yeah, like
1 to 5.
you're getting Mike Williams as of right now. What he is right now, like what he's been the last few games. Like,
I think it's a toss up between either one. I go Mike Williams, man. Just the offense is running more smooth than the Seattle offense is.
Odell, DK Metcalf.
Like Odell, give me DK. Give me DK there.
Okay. Even with the 3 touchdowns in the last 3 weeks.
Yeah, give me DK there. Okay. Man, that's a good. It's a good question. It's a good question to ask. And, fantasy managers are going to be asking themselves these questions. But they don't have to. They don't have to because they got us to answer those questions, right?
And you know what? It's we keep saying it. It's not pretty, but you have to win. You don't play to lose the game. You play to win the game. And you have to be the guru. Be the guru guy who goes, I started KJ Osborne last week. Be that guy who says that because then you go, what the hell does this guy know? And he beat me because of KJ Osborne. Like, that's going to make someone so salty that you knew that.
Hell yeah.
So do it. It works.
Yep. But that's it for us. We appreciate you guys tuning in. Like the stream, subscribe to the channel. I'm all over the place today with this talking stuff. We appreciate the support. Splash and Jack were on the watch along last night. It was pure entertainment. So make sure you're subscribing to the uSTADIUM YouTube channel here, and you'll get the prompts. You'll get the push notifications for whenever we drop something, whenever we go live, and you're going to want to tune into that stuff. I'm Chris, and with me, as always, is Stefan. Stefan, let them know where they can find you, brother.
Right here. I'll take all the Rashad Penny slander that I haven't taken already. All the Dontrell Hilliard slander I haven't taken already. Just, what my DMs are, my inboxes. I'll take it. And we're going to come back on Sunday. We're going to do this thing all over again. And we're going to try to help you guys win week 1 of 3 weeks of playoffs. And hopefully, if you're with us the next 2 weeks, that means you're winning. That means you're in the semis. That means you're in the championships. And let us know. Let us know what your matchup ended up being this week in the playoffs. Let us know if we helped you out, if we screwed you over. I just want to know it all because this is what I love to do. I know this is what Chris loves to do.
Yes, sir.
And we just want to see you win because we also want to win. So when you win, we win.
Yep. 100%. I agree with that. All right, guys. We'll see you Sunday. Don't forget there is football on Saturday. don't forget. Don't
Set your
get caught.
lineups.
Yeah, that's it. Set your lineups. We'll see you guys then.